Region Niners, welcome to Region Talk, IAEM-USA's Region 9 podcast, coming over to you in your radios, your stereos, your webcams, your computers, however you watch our podcast or listen to us. We are definitely the forum for emergency managers within Region 9. And for today, we actually are going on with our segment and traveling through the regions. We're going to Region 5. But before we dive into our Round the Region segment, a little information about what's going on in IAEM Region 9, as well as the IAEM-USA Council. So for Region 9, we just sent out our newsletter, our main newsletter titled May We Help You. And it's really an invitation to all of our Region 9 members. May we help you. May we help you get your leadership, personal or professional contribution, your service role, your leadership role. Is there a way that we can help you and you can help us? There are plenty avenues to volunteer on Region 9. There are the Region 9 advisory committees that are access and functional needs, critical infrastructure, diversity and inclusion, higher education, judicial even, and membership as well as non-governmental organizations. So there's the advisory committee. Additionally, you can join on to any of the Region 9 podcasts or projects such as the podcast. We also have webinars. There's also the potential for joining on the symposium if you didn't attend this year's symposium in Garden Grove, maybe there's an opportunity for you to be part of the team that will create the next symposium. There are constant opportunities or many opportunities that we are trying to communicate, and we want to hear from you. Additionally, if you're already on an IAEM-USA caucus or committee, such as the emerging technologies or emerging professionals or critical infrastructure, if you're already in these caucuses and committees, if you want to go ahead and become a Region 9 representative on these committees, go ahead and come back to the advisory committee at Region 9 and let us know what's happening up at the caucus and committee level. Those are three major ways that you can provide or can contribute to the profession and also get your professional contribution of a service role or leadership role. Additionally, in that newsletter, when we spoke about earthquakes in our last podcast, we also provided you some earthquake apps like MyShake, the MyShake app, also USGS, Shake Alert. There are tons of resources based on our last podcast with CalOES Earthquake Early Warning System Program Manager, Derek Lambeth. So that's another resource in our newsletter. Additionally, there's a survey. If you can, please go ahead and fill out the FEMA Next Generation Core Competencies Survey that is in the May I Help You newsletter. A FEMA cohort, Executive Academy cohort, is doing a research project and they need your feedback. So go ahead and go into our main newsletter and answer the survey. Additionally, at IAEM-USA, there are DEI listening sessions. If you have yet to get an email from IAEM-USA regarding the DEI listening sessions, go ahead and access our main newsletter, and you'll be able to see that there are 4 listed sessions for feedback in regards to DEI. Also, if you feel that you would rather provide your feedback in an email, you can also email DEI-feedback@IAEM.com. Alrighty, so here we go. We're going to start into our segment with Round the Regions, and we are flying in hot to Region 5, serving Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin with none other than the IAEM-USA Region 5 President, Allison Farole.
Farole.
Did I get it?
It's Farole.
Dang it, I didn't get it.
Italian name, no worries.
Oh, man. Well, welcome so much for joining us. Let our listeners, give the listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, Sure. So good evening, everybody. I know that it's about 6 o'clock West Coast time, currently on East Coast time, so we're getting into the 9 p.m. time frame. So good evening. Actually, I'm a born and raised Southern California girl, so it's very much talking to my home and where I came from, grew up, went to undergrad. So it's nice to be able to connect back with where I came from. So a little bit about me. Yes, I am the Region 5 president currently. And I've been in Region 5 for about almost 4 years. So my day job is I am the Emergency Management Administrator for the city of Grand Rapids in Michigan. Yes, never thought a California girl would be moving to Michigan, but don't worry, I am surviving all the winters that I've gone through so far. They're not that bad. As long as you have a good coat and no one driving snow, you're pretty good. But before my arrival here in Michigan, my emergency management career was started in Charlottesville, Virginia. So that was Region 3. I had a lot of great adventures at my time in the Charlottesville UVA and Albemarle Office of Emergency Management Office. Unfortunately, dealt with lots of civil unrest through the Unite the Right rally and some flooding and tornadoes and Amtrak derailments. So lots of unique things that I would say I call them adventures because they've definitely made me who I am today as an emergency manager. And it's a joke because I came to Grand Rapids and then they had riots 6 months later. So I am the black cloud that everyone loves to have. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. But I really am passionate about emergency management and definitely have been big on the legislative side of things and very much been an advocate for our work and really trying to do what we can to really make our lives easier at all levels.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allison, for joining us.
Yes.
Alrighty. So as we dive into Around the Regions, if you may, can you please describe what IAEM means? And I guess in addition to that, anything that makes Region 5 special?
Yeah, so IAEM, I've personally been part of this association for I think about 10 years at this point since the beginning of my career. Very much through the years for me, I find this to be probably the best area of connection to all sorts of different of emergency managers. So not only do we have governmental emergency managers, the local, state, federal level, but definitely, as we all know, the different sectors, right? And this is what we do every day. We have to know the right people to get the resources to hear how others do things. We're never reinventing the wheel. We are always trying to kind of learn from each other. And I think that's something that this organization does a really good job, is to really having those various avenues of being able to connect. And that's what I love about it. And so as far as Region 5 goes, I've enjoyed coming in from a different region. Region 3 is really robust in a lot of things, just like Region 9. So when you're spewing off all the things you're going, I'm like, dang, I'm writing down notes. Like, we're going to do some good stuff too. It's like, this is the kind of stuff, right? And Region 5 is, I would say, this is a very unique region. It is, and Ismar, you and I kind of chatted about this a little bit earlier. Just being the person that's from California, I lived in Alabama, lived in Virginia, now I'm way up here in the Midwest. For me, something I've really seen that I don't think it's really known, especially here in Michigan sometimes, is that this is our time, right? This is our time in Region 5 to invest in our emergency management programs, really get those robust programs, have the right people at the table, build those good plans, get people ready for what's coming. And I say that because we know climate change in California and all the West Coast sees all of this every single day, unfortunately. And I apologize if you see a cattail come up. He wants to join us. But so, I look at where I'm living now and I kind of just see like our weather is changing up here. Obviously the winters, everyone talks about winters up here. From what I've heard from others and kind of what I've personally been seeing, they're changing from what they normally are. And that's due to climate change and those impacts. But the one thing that we have up here is we have a lot of fresh water, as you know, the Great Lakes, right? And so what we may be seeing impacts of this migration of people, more and more people moving up this way, because of the impacts that we're seeing across the country and the heat. And like down in Florida, a lot of folks are able to get homeowners insurance anymore. So because of the hurricane. So kind of, I think we're in a unique spot in a region wide, is that because of our locations, this is our time, right? To really build up and invest into kind of help, because of what we're going to have all of you come to us, and that's our future. But other than that, I think we have our unique attributes of disasters as well. Lots of snow, lots of wind, lots of high wind stuff. I know California is known also gets lots of high wind. But I think Ohio just dealt with multiple train derailments. Unfortunately, we have Chicago. It's a big city, and so I think there's a lot of unique things that are similar in some other ways around the country, but I think our proximity, our locations, is what makes us unique, and that's really what stands us out in the world of emergency management.
Now, when you said migration, I didn't realize you were speaking about human migration.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Until like the rest of your sentence happened. But I was just like, oh, migration patterns, because migration patterns are changing.
Correct.
Right, just because of climate change. Alrighty, so thanks for diving into the networking opportunities here within IAEM. And I was actually wondering, when it comes down to Region 5, are there any big asks or loudest asks or areas of concern that you have heard from your membership in general? Is there something that, that's really loud and getting your attention from membership?
I think that's where I want to see more of, actually. So one thing that we're doing this year that I've noticed is we are, as far as like the board, there's 3 of us on our board here in Region 5, is that we're trying to get into the states. So that's one of our focuses this year, is to have a presence at all the state conferences. Like basically come to them, right? Get to know, because our membership numbers in some states up here are not as high as they should be, or as I think are what they could be, right?
Right.
And so I think there's we have small counties, a lot of rural areas in Region 5. So looking, a lot of these folks don't necessarily have organizations, or even in the local governments don't necessarily have big budgets, right? So being able to get them out and to the conference in Long Beach or Savannah or wherever it may be. So that's also why the virtual conference that IAM does is great as well, to be able to connect. But I mean, so being able to kind of go to them and try and connect and try and build up that engagement, and getting folks to understand why it's important to be part of IAM, what they can get out of it. You don't necessarily need to go to an in-person conference to gain knowledge or to build connections. There's a lot of caucuses and committees, as we all know, to be part of this, to really be able to build those connections or to get those lessons learned. So that's a big thing. We also did a virtual symposium this March, so where we had a couple hours. That was exciting, because I think I can't recall if there was one in the middle of COVID. I mean, obviously the last few years are a total blur for everybody. But so it was really cool, and we got a lot of great feedback on having so, like, for example, we had Tom Syvek, who's our FEMA Region 5 regional administrator, come in and really talk a lot about what their office is doing. Obviously, they've been very active with a lot of things with the train derailments in Ohio and the immigration situation that's been impacting Chicago. And but we also had a presentation done by Waukesha County up in Wisconsin, which, if you all recall, that was when they had a Christmas Day parade incident with a car going into the crowd. So it was really good to hear kind of like local incidents and kind of learning from stuff like that, right? So I guess I want to take back of saying what I want to hear more of, but I think that's kind of what I'm gathering a lot when I talk to our members, is they just want connection. I think they're kind of striving for that. So we also do bi-monthly virtual happy hours where it's very low-key, simple, kind of have a question of the day or 2 questions of the day to kind of spur discussion and kind of do some think tank ideas type of situation. So it's been trying to just kind of feel out of what everyone's really looking, and I think connection is a big one, and I think there's a lot of reason for that. COVID's probably a big one. Everyone's trying to find connection and being able to have that low-key time.
Right. I mean, even you don't get in person, there's definitely something about the networking component when you have a mutual understanding of just your passions, right? What you're actively pursuing, and it's similar to someone else. There's an instant connection right there. So definitely. Well, with the symposium that you just had and the meeting, the casual meeting that you're also hosting, are there any other planned events for this year, or strategic wise, or are there any long-term plans that are in the works for Region 5?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. So, for example, we're going to try and take advantage of the National Homeland Security Conference happening in Chicago at the end of July. So, really trying to understand what Region 5 members are attending, looking to host a social in Chicago for Region 5 members. And honestly, if you are a Region 9 member and you're coming to Chicago for the National Homeland Security Conference, please get in touch with me. I will tell you the location. You can come mingle with Region 5 folks. So trying to, again, take advantage of those things. Region 9 is very large as well, so we can't necessarily come together in person a lot just due to proximity and travel expenses and things like that. So again, taking advantage, right? Conferences in our region, let's get together. The other thing is definitely we're planning on doing another virtual symposium next year. That was a lot. We got a lot of great feedback on wanting that, and also trying to make sure that we gather at the conference in Long Beach. So those are some in-person engagement opportunities that we're currently working on. And even look and see how the rest of the summer goes, to maybe do another virtual webinar or whatnot. But kind of a crawl, walk, run process into this year to really get the feel of things and really look at other ways that we could expand our engagement. So maybe next year we'll take on another round of unique opportunities for our members.
Right on. And are you doing any collaboration with other regions, like your vicinity, your vicinity neighbors within IAM?
That's a good idea. No, we are currently not, at least not formally planning anything. But we're always open for ideas. So
right, just pop it up in here.
Yeah, I like it.
Now that I mentioned it, I should start going over my neighbors too.
Yes, definitely. And to be honest with you, I think we do that every day. Just at least in the different areas that we're all part of, caucuses and committees and things like that. Like I was just on the advocacy caucus meeting earlier today and really talking about how we can use that to connect more with our regions. And so we're always finding ideas, right? That's what we do as emergency managers, always trying to find ways to collaborate, which is great.
Yep. The network is the net worth. And that's how we all succeed.
Most definitely. Yes.
Alrighty. So for getting engaged, getting engagement of your membership, you had mentioned going out to the states and going out to your other communities to wrangle in members within Region 5. Are there any other tips and tricks that you are using to navigate membership engagement?
I think you mentioned COVID being really an impact on we saw the strong influx of members, and that's kind of slowing down. And I'm a part of other volunteer organizations in my personal life, and that is not something that's just happening with IEM. It's happening in all organizations and different arenas. And to be very honest with you, I think that's because we were kind of on this very slow roll with COVID and not able to do anything. And then once basically the doors were open, everyone went full force. And now I think we're all tired. we're exhausted, right? And so we're seeing that kind of impact, and none of that concerns me. I think that we just have to let people be and let them find their ways and find their own time, right? We have to be very understanding, but that doesn't mean anything as far as what we can't do to do more engagement. So I think it's one of listening and really trying to understand, like, kind of like what's happening. They may be still they're a member, but maybe their ability to be engaged is really not a lot of time right now. And I think that's okay. The other thing is, there's a lot of discussions around the DEI topics as well, and I know that's a big focus right now, not just for the board, but it's a big focus for a lot of our members, and that's an area where I think we need to really listen, and maybe this slow time is good, okay, and to kind of step back and really kind of look at what's going on and kind of figure out, are we doing all this right? Rather than trying to fix everything the moment we start seeing our numbers, like engagement dip or whatever it may be. I think it's more of, let's just kind of listen. And that's something that I think we're all trying to do, to kind of figure out the playing field, I guess you could say.
Very, very wise words. I think we should take the pause and conscientiously move forward in that pause and be comfortable with it being uncomfortable.
Correct.
Just so that we can acknowledge our membership and what they are actually asking for. That's greatly right. Oh, chef's kiss. Alrighty. So is there anything else that you would actually want to highlight in regards of IAEM Region 5?
I don't, it's kind of, I'm like saying, I think one thing for me that, and this again, I'd probably say a lot of this is from a personal experience. I've been very fortunate to live in many places, especially as an emergency manager. I really think that let me gather my words here so I'm not mumbling on this, but I really love how, I think I like to see more regions, I guess, kind of talk to each other, right? But again, I think we're doing that, but just not at a region level, or with that kind of with that headline, I guess you could say. But I think we're doing a lot of great stuff up here. I think we're kind of quiet because we're all just working very hard. We're all a lot of us are one-person shops. And so trying to just kind of do what we need to do. And hopefully that's changing, right? Again, for me here in Grand Rapids, we are a city of 200,000 people, very fast growth on the west side of Michigan. I was a one-person shop up until 30 days ago. And so that's crazy, right? But looking at kind of, I think, trying to, again, do that investment and knowing maybe we need to kind of, knowing that Region 5 is really maybe sitting quiet a little bit sometimes. We got a lot going on, a lot of good stuff. I know everyone's working hard trying to be robust in their programs.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for highlighting. Can you let the listeners know how to get a hold of you as IAEM Region 5 president?
Yeah, most definitely. All my contact information is on the IAEM website under the Region 5 council page. So feel free to send me an email through that. I'm also in the directory. You can find me. But same thing with Ryan Wilkinson, who is our vice president. He's great. He's also a Michigan County EM. And then Allison Moore, who is on the private sector side down in Indiana. So we've definitely got a well-rounded board. So feel free to connect with us or anybody in Region 5. And to be honest, if you've never been up to the Great Lakes, highly recommend it. It's beautiful up here. It's actually quite mind-blowing. It blew my mind for the first time when I saw them. So highly recommend it.
Beautiful. I'll be sure to grab my fishing pole on my way over there. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate your time. And thank you to our Region 9 listeners and all of our listeners, because without you, this would not be possible. And also, if you have not followed us on Substack or our social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, please go ahead and do so. That is where we are making sure we are getting the news to you in a social media manner. But anyways, please reach out to us if you have any questions. And Thank you to the man behind the scenes. I'm not sure where he's going to poke out, if he's going to poke out, but thank you so much, Brian from Sitch Radio. And to all of our Region 9ers, we appreciate you. Keep on rocking.